So these past couple of years, man, there has been just a huge debate between who's better, Roman Reigns, the tribal chief himself, or Seth freaking Rollins, man. Has been a debate that has happened for a very, very long time. We have really seen them evolve. Like, we've seen Roman Reigns go from the enforcer on the Shield, the big dog during his babyface run, to now the tribal chief, the head of the table. He is currently the face of the company right now, and maybe the biggest star in pro wrestling. And then you have Seth freaking Rollins, the man that turned on the Shield, broke them up, was Mr. Money in the Bank, and had one of the biggest, if not the biggest, cash-in of all time at Wrestlemania 31 to become the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. We have seen him evolve, and now he is currently the drip god. He has been on a run, matches with Cody Rhodes, Edge, even had a few with Roman Reigns. Like, Seth Rollins, again, probably the second, if maybe we can even make an argument, the best wrestler in the world right now, man. These are two great wrestlers, and just been a lot of debate on who's better. So in this video, we're going to really dive deep and find out who's better. Before we get into this, we have to look all the way back to when they first started. And let's start off with Seth freaking Rollins. Seth Rollins debuted in 2005, wrestling in Iowa independent scenes under the ring name Jix. He will later on change his name to Tyler Black. Seth Rollins was around the independent scene. He even briefly appeared in TNA at one point, and then he signed with WWE in 2010 with the FCW brand, which later on became NXT that we know today. During his FCW days, man, he actually had a feud with Dean Ambrose, which is crazy to think because him and Ambrose would end up being really, really close, especially with the whole Shield. Then he will beat Leo Keeger to become the new FCW heavyweight champion. He will actually go on to lose the championship to Rick Victor at a house show. And that's when WWE rebranded FCW to the NXT brand that we know today. Seth Rollins was called up to the main roster, but when he was on the main roster, he was still the NXT champion. He will go on to lose to Big E. Then the Shield was born. It was Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins. They would debut November 18th at Survivor Series, tagging right back in a triple threat match for the WWE Championship, allowing CM Punk to pin John Cena. To me, one of the best debuts of all time in my books. Then the Shield were really going this run, just destroying people, power bombing people through the tables. Like, the Shield were just a straight menace during their first run. They would have feuds and matches with the Wyatt family, the Cody Rhodes and Goldust, Evolution, Team No Hell. Just a lot of great feuds and a lot of great memorable moments by the Shield. But obviously, all good things come to an end. Seth Rollins would ended up turning on the Shield by hitting Roman Reigns with a steel chair, man, and that was just a shock to a lot of people, man. No one really seen the Shield breaking up, but we all know, man, Seth is kind of a menace. He always thinks outside the box, man. He's always one step ahead of everyone. He turned on the Shield and joined the Authority. Then he would have a feud with Dean Ambrose again. Like, I'm telling y'all, Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins has had kind of a history since FCW days. Him and Dean Ambrose will just go on a huge feud. Then Seth Rollins would end up winning the Money in the Bank contract, where, I'm not gonna lie, and me personally, I think Seth Rollins is probably the greatest Money in the Bank holder, just because he carrying that briefcase everywhere, man. This man was just getting title shots after title shots. We all remember that Brock versus Cena match at the Royal Rumble, and man, one of the best triple threats I've ever seen. This man was really on a run, and I think Seth Rollins' Money in the Bank win and run is how you build up a star. But at this point, Seth Rollins was painted as the future of the company. That really was his gimmick. The future, he was going to be the guy of the company, not Cena, not Roman Reigns, no one else. He was going to be the guy to carry this company. Then at WrestleMania 31, after he lost to Randy Orton, he would shock the world by cashing in his Money in the Bank contract and pinning Roman Reigns to become the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Again, maybe the best cash in of all time, man. And everyone was shocked, including myself. Like, no one expected Seth Rollins to cash in that night. We just all assumed, yeah, Roman's taking this win, and that was the original plan. But they decided to have Seth cash in, and that was just a wild moment, man. One of the biggest moments in WWE history. Then after that, Seth will go on to have great feuds with Randy Orton and John Cena, where he would actually end up winning the United States Championship and only becoming one of the few guys to hold the WWE title and the United States title at the same time. But even after having an amazing run, man, at a house show, he would end up tearing his ACL, ending his title run, man. Now, this is where Roman comes into play. As y'all know, Roman and Seth Rollins were part of the Shield, and Roman, during his time with the Shield, was kind of the enforcer. He was the muscle. He was the guy that, you didn't want to mess with, you know what I'm saying? And everyone really liked that about Roman, but all of that changed around 2015. Roman in 2015 was being pushed as the face of the company. That's who WWE really seen as the future. I mean, he won the Royal Rumble, and man, that Royal Rumble was just, oh my God, man. It was so bad. Like, the amount of boos that this man was getting, like, The Rock couldn't even save that man. That's the amount of boos this man was getting, bro. I can't blame the fans at all, just because, like, bro, when you're getting a dude pushed down your throat every 5 minutes, you know what I'm saying, as the top guy, like, it's annoying. You can tell the push was being forced. But obviously, he won the Rumble. He would go on. Then Roman would go on and main event WrestleMania 31 against Brock Lesnar. And that match was heated as fuck. The fans were not feeling Roman at all. Like, every time Roman got a little bit of offense, they were booing that man to the moon. Like, bro, Roman was not getting no love. But towards the end of the match, Seth Rollins will go ahead and cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase to become the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion. At that, he won it by pinning Roman, which is very, very key, because they could have pinned Seth Rollins even way over by making him pin Brock, but they made him pin Roman, which was odd at the time. But now looking back, I understood why Seth Rollins pinned Roman Reigns. But as you guys know, Seth Rollins had to vacate the title after having an injury at a house show, which means the WWE World Heavyweight Championship was vacated, and WWE decided to have a tournament for the vacated title, which Roman will go on to win. But that win wouldn't last for long, because about like 4 to 5 minutes later, Sheamus will come out and he will cash in his Money in the Bank contract. This man Roman got cashed in twice in 1 year. That's crazy. And I think at this moment, WWE decided to hold off on Roman's push, just because, like, you can't have your babyface champion consistently getting booed like that. So you might as well just put the belt on someone and just hold off his push for a little while, and maybe have him back in that mid-card role until you're ready to push him again to that main event stardom. But Roman would get a rematch against Sheamus, but the rules were that if Roman were to lose, he will be forced to retire. But Roman will go ahead and actually beat Sheamus to become now a 2-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion. After beating Sheamus, Roman will be forced to defend his WWE Championship at the 2016 Royal Rumble against 30 other men, which Triple H, the game himself, would end up winning. Then at Fastlane, Reigns will defeat Brock Lesnar and Dean Ambrose in a triple threat match to receive a WWE World Heavyweight Championship match against Triple H at WrestleMania 32. When he defeated Triple H in the main event, he would become the new WWE World Heavyweight Champion for the third time. A lot of people really did enjoy that match. The crowd was pretty much dead that entire match. I thought the match was a 5-star classic. Then after winning the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, he will actually go on to feud with AJ Styles, and he will successfully defend his championship against him at Payback and then at Extreme Rules. Then after Extreme Rules, Roman will be attacked by no other Seth freaking Rollins. Man, Roman Reigns cannot get away from this man. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns will have a feud, and they will go on to have a WWE World Heavyweight Championship match at Money in the Bank, where Seth Rollins would beat Roman Reigns, but only for a couple of minutes later for Dean Ambrose to come in and cash in his Money in the Bank contract. And that was the night that all 3 Shield members were WWE champions. Then on June 21st, Roman would actually be legitimately suspended by the WWE for 30 days after violating the WWE Wellness Program. But let's transition over back to Seth Rollins since Roman Reigns was suspended. Now that Dean Ambrose is WWE Champion, him and Rollins had another feud again. I'm telling you, Seth Rollins has just been having feuds with Roman and Seth since FCW days. It's crazy. But after Seth Rollins couldn't get a hold of the WWE Championship, Seth Rollins was drafted to Raw as the first overall pick. So at this point, Raw and SmackDown were exclusive brands. SmackDown had the WWE Champion, Dean Ambrose, which left Raw without a world title, which introduced the Universal Championship. And at SummerSlam, he will have a Universal Championship match against the Demon Finn Balor, which he will lose at SummerSlam, which makes Finn Balor the first ever Universal Champion. But Finn Balor will have to relinquish the title after suffering a shoulder injury at SummerSlam. So the following night on Raw, Rollins will face Big Cass, Roman Reigns, and Kevin Owens in a fatal 4-way elimination match for the title. But Triple H will interfere, attack Rollins, allowing Kevin Owens to win the WWE Universal title. But after Rollins failed to win the title from Owens at Cash in the Castle and at Hell in a Cell, then around January, Rollins will begin a feud with Triple H leading into WrestleMania. Y'all all know Triple H and Seth Rollins kind of had some history with the Authority. Rollins will kind of go on a rampage trying to confront Triple H at NXT TakeOver show. He would demand Triple H to come out multiple times. But Triple H will finally give him his match at WrestleMania 33. Seth Rollins will go on and beat Triple H in a really, really good match. I think that's one of Seth Rollins' most underrated matches of all time. That match was a banger. The storytelling between those two, from Seth Rollins being in NXT to, Triple H and that Rollins teaming up in the Authority and, Triple H backing Seth Rollins as the future of the company to now becoming rivals and just putting on a great match, man. That was great storytelling by Triple H and Seth Rollins. Then this is where we see a little bit of a mini Shield reunion. Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose will kind of team up during that time, and it really was a solid run between those two. They even beat Cesaro and Sheamus to win the Raw Tag Team Championships at SummerSlam. But let's get back to Roman a little bit. We'll actually have a feud with The Undertaker at the Royal Rumble. Roman Reigns will go ahead and eliminate The Undertaker, which set up Roman versus The Undertaker in the main event of WrestleMania 33. And to be honest with you, man, that was probably one of the worst WrestleMania main events I've ever seen from The Undertaker because, The Undertaker, first of all, did not look 100% that entire match. Second of all, I don't know why this match even main evented that WrestleMania that year. I feel like there could have been way better matches to main event that WrestleMania. For an example, Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt. Randy Orton didn't win that Royal Rumble that year. It could have been maybe Kevin Owens and Chris Jericho. Or even Brock Lesnar and Goldberg. I just don't think Roman versus The Undertaker should have main evented that WrestleMania. But Roman will go ahead and be the second guy ever to beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. And everyone thought Roman retired The Undertaker. But we all know years later that would never happen. But Roman would come out the following Raw after WrestleMania 33 and was just getting straight boos. The crowd was not feeling him to the point the man couldn't even get a word off. And he would end up not even saying anything and just leaving because that's how much the crowd did not like Roman. But even after that, we already know how much the WWE loves Roman. He was consistently still getting pushed, but the man was not getting no W's. And he actually had a feud with John Cena heading into No Mercy, which I actually really enjoyed that feud. But we all remember the iconic moments between those two. Like, Cena was straight dogging Roman in those promos.
It's called a promo, kid.
Shut your mouth,
if you want to be the big dog, you're going to have to learn how to do it, so go ahead.
Like, it wasn't even funny. And after they had their match at No Mercy, which was a really, really solid match, John Cena tried to pit Roman Reigns over, but bro, the fans were not feeling it, bro. Like, the fans saw right through it. Like, WWE really thought if they had John Cena, you know what I'm saying, put Roman over, that the fans will, you know, warm up to him and love him. But bro, the fans don't like Roman. Like, I've never really understood this with WWE. Like, they keep pushing a guy as a babyface at that, as the top guy, but people were just not feeling it. And a lot of people were just calling for Roman to turn heel. And that moment right there, Roman could have turned heel and he maybe would have gotten over, but it just wasn't working for WWE in trying to make Roman as a top star and as a babyface. So after Roman beat John Cena, WWE would try to put him over again by having, you know, the Shield reunite again, just destroying The Miz. But that only lasted like a couple of months, because it would go back and Roman would be put right back in the main event spot against no other Brock Lesnar. And Brock and Roman will face off in the main event of WrestleMania 34. Another WrestleMania that a lot of people just didn't care for. No one really wanted to see Brock win, but no one else wanted to see Roman win. So whoever won that match, fans were just going to get mad either way. But I'm not going to lie, I think the match itself was actually a banger. And I think that WrestleMania, I think it should have been Charlotte and Asuka main event in that WrestleMania instead of Brock versus Roman, just because no one really cared for that match. And I think Charlotte and Asuka would have went crazy in the main event. But Brock would end up beating Roman. I was kind of shocked. I thought this was probably going to be the moment that they try to put Roman over again by making him beat Brock. But at SummerSlam, Roman will go ahead and beat Brock Lesnar to win the WWE Universal title for the first time in his career. But after having that win on an episode of Monday Night Raw, Roman will come out and tell the fans that his leukemia came back and he will have to relinquish the Universal title and he will be gone from WWE for a while. And it was a really emotional moment for a lot of people, including myself, because, you know what I'm saying, I had people in my family, you know, deal with cancer, so I can only imagine what Roman was going through at that time. And I think it was just one of those moments where the fans was like, you know what, we can't just only look at Roman, we have to look at the person, not the wrestler. I think that's the moment that a lot of the fans got behind Roman just because of that. But after Roman would come back pretty quickly, after he came back, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns will have a Shield reunion right before Dean Ambrose left the company. Roman will go on and have a match with Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania 35, which he will win. Then Roman Reigns will move to SmackDown, and his run during SmackDown really wasn't that great. I mean, he had a feud with Shane McMahon that no one really cared for. He had a feud with Baron Corbin, which was like one of the worst feuds of Roman's career. But then WrestleMania 36 came along. And at the time, Goldberg was the WWE Universal Champion on SmackDown. And Roman would challenge Goldberg in the match at WrestleMania 36 for the Universal title. But unfortunately, the pandemic hit and the match was called off. And Braun Strowman would actually replace Roman Reigns in his spot. And Braun Strowman would actually go on to beat Goldberg for the Universal title. Then about 5 months later, Roman Reigns would come back and he would just hit the Fiend with a spear. And this is the moment that Roman Reigns' career would change forever. Roman Reigns finally turned heel after the fans been begging for him to turn heel after years. And at that moment, the tribal chief, the head of the table, was born. After SummerSlam, a triple threat match was made for Roman Reigns, The Fiend, and Braun Strowman for the WWE Universal title. But Roman wouldn't sign the contract until towards the end of the match, and he would just come in, got the W, and ever since then, Roman has been on one of the greatest runs we have ever seen. And to start off Roman Reigns' run, Roman would actually feud with Jey Uso in maybe one of his best feuds of all time. Like the intensity, storyline between the two, the history, you know what I'm saying? And Roman and Jey just did a phenomenal job. And at this point, I actually really thought Jey could have just not be a tag team partner and actually pursue himself as a single star, because the matches he was putting on with Roman, the storytelling he was doing with Roman was just unbelievable. And Roman's heel work, bro, was just off the charts. The way that, you know, he made you believe like, yo, this is really his show. He really runs WWE. He's really the face of WWE was amazing by Roman. Like, once Roman gets to Hollywood, bro, Hollywood's gonna love that, man. At Clash of Champions, man, Roman just completely demolished Jey Uso. Like, the match was intense, and Roman was just going crazy. He was doing low blows and just, in a way, you know, beating the heel himself to find the W. But the match went in, Jimmy coming in and throwing in the towel to save his brother from the destruction of Roman Reigns. As Roman looked at Jey, he wanted Jey to acknowledge him as the tribal chief, as the head of the table. And after that, Jey and Roman would actually face off again in a Hell in a Cell match, in an I Quit match. And man, that match was maybe one of the brutalest match I've ever seen by Roman Reigns. Like, this man was going off, hitting him with steel chairs, you know what I'm saying, put him in a submission lock. And Roman said he wasn't going to hurt his own blood, but after Jey didn't want to acknowledge him, Roman just went even harder, to the point where he knocked the official out, and he was basically telling Jey to acknowledge him. Then Jimmy would come out to try to save Jey, and Jimmy was trying to talk some sense into Roman, of trying to remind him, man, that this is family, it just isn't worth it, and trying to talk Roman out of it. But Roman's heel work, bro. He started crying, you know what I'm saying, showing emotion, showing that he actually cared about Jey. But we all know that was a lie. Jimmy will go ahead and try to shake Roman's hand, but Roman will go ahead and put him in a DDT lock, and Jimmy was forced to quit to save his brother. And that storytelling, bro, the way Roman and Jimmy and Jey just really executed that whole story was unbelievable. Maybe my favorite storyline with Roman. I think at this moment, it really established Roman as really the head of the table and really the face in the company. And it really shown that, you know, Roman was here to stay, and Roman was not to be played with, not to be messed with. Roman will go on to have feuds with Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, Daniel Bryan, Edge. And I think after this, Roman will probably go down as maybe the GOAT of his era, because think about it, outside of Roman, who's really, you know, saying the main event guy? Seth was at a moment, but I feel like ever since 2015, Seth was really never really put in that position to be the main event star. Dean Ambrose looked like it, but they stopped his push. So Roman was really the guy and really the top dog of the company. And I think after he beats The Rock at WrestleMania 39, Roman is definitely going to start creeping up in that top 25 of all time. Let's head over back to Seth Rollins. Rollins actually going on to team up with Jason Jordan, a young up-and-coming rookie, and they will actually beat Cesaro and Sheamus to become the new Raw Tag Team Champions. And Seth and Jason Jordan kind of has something, you know, going. Like, I actually thought guys were a great pairing, but that will actually end because Jason Jordan will actually have to leave because he suffered a neck injury, which means Seth Rollins was back on his own. Then Rollins was named as a competitor in the Elimination Chamber match to determine the #1 contender for the Universal Championship. Rollins will have to compete in a 7-man gauntlet match to decide who would enter the Elimination Chamber match last, but he was eliminated by Roman Reigns, John Cena in the second fall. Then he was eliminated by Elias. And then at WrestleMania 34, Rollins will actually defeat Finn Balor and The Miz in a triple threat match to win the Intercontinental Championship for the first time in his career. With that, Seth Rollins will actually become the 29th Triple Crown Champion and the 18th Grand Slam Champion in WWE history. After After winning the Intercontinental Championship, beat The Miz in a rematch at Backlash, and then Rollins would actually go on to defend the title multiple times, including open challenges, things like that. Then on the episode of Raw, Rollins would actually drop the championship to Dolph Ziggler. Drew McIntyre distracted Seth Rollins, giving Dolph Ziggler the win, ending his title reign. Seth Rollins and Dolph would continue to have a feud. They would actually have a match in the main event of Extreme Rules, and then they would have another match at SummerSlam. Seth Rollins would actually defeat Ziggler to retain the championship after having the help of Dean Ambrose. The next night on Raw, Rollins will reform the Shield with Ambrose and Rollins, preventing Braun Strowman from actually cashing in his Money in the Bank contract against Roman Reigns, who was at the time the Universal Champion. The reunion of the Shield wouldn't actually last that long because, if you guys know, Roman would actually have to leave the WWE because he was re-diagnosed with leukemia. After the Shield, had that special moment, Rollins and Dean Ambrose would actually go on to defeat Dolph Ziggler and Drew McIntyre to become the new Raw Tag Team Champions, which made Rollins a double champion, having the Raw Tag Team Championship and the IC title. That win for Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins actually wouldn't last that long because Dean would go on to attack Seth Rollins in the most shocking moments. Like, I was not expecting Dean Ambrose to turn heel, especially after, the whole Roman situation. So this was a big shock to a lot of people. I don't even think that heel turn was really necessary. Once again, the Shield was just broken up again. As you guys didn't notice, the Shield would just come back together just to be broken up a couple of months later. I don't know why WWE kept doing that. I don't know if they just wanted to pop or sell more merchandise or what, but kept trying to, get the Shield back together, but it just wasn't hitting for a lot of people. But towards the end of the year, Rollins would actually continue to feud with Dean Ambrose, which led to a title match at the TLC pay-per-view where Dean Ambrose would actually beat Rollins to become the new Intercontinental Champion. At this point, we would actually start to see Seth Rollins actually get pushed in the main event scene because at the Royal Rumble, he would actually win his first ever Royal Rumble match by eliminating Braun Strowman. Following night, Seth Rollins will go ahead and challenge Brock Lesnar for the WWE Universal Championship at WrestleMania 35. Soon after, the Shield would team back up again to defeat Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley, and Baron Corbin at Fastlane. Again, WWE just keep trying to bring the Shield back. It's not hitting. I don't know why they kept doing that. In certain moments, I can understand why, but even for some moments, it just didn't make sense for them to just keep coming back together as the band. We're over the Shield, bro. It's done. Ever since Seth Rollins broke up the Shield back in 2014, man, it just wasn't the same. At WrestleMania 35, Seth Rollins would go on and beat Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 35. They would actually open up the show, which was pretty shocking to me, just because I feel as though Seth and Brock could have easily made event at that WrestleMania. I think they should have actually made event at that WrestleMania instead of the triple threat match, just because I feel like that would have given a chance to establish Seth Rollins as that main event star, just because Seth Rollins really wasn't in that main event scene. He was really floating around in the tag team division and in the mid-card division. So I thought this would have been the perfect time to back into that main event scene. But Rollins was actually off to a hot start. I mean, he had a great feud with AJ Styles and a hell of a good match at Money in the Bank. And then Seth Rollins' reign just started to get really, really sour. Look, I think Corbin is a great talent, but he had a okay feud with Baron Corbin for a while. Kind of paired up with Becky at the time they were dating, and I feel like that really, really hurt Seth Rollins because at the time, Becky was probably the biggest star in WWE. Kept pairing those two up, and I feel like Becky was kind of overshadowing Seth Rollins during his babyface run. Seth Rollins' run wouldn't last that long because, as you guys know, at that Money in the Bank pay-per-view, Brock would actually just come out of nowhere and actually win that Money in the Bank match, and no one was really expecting that. Again, win that Money in the Bank, cashed in on Seth Rollins to become the new Universal Champion. At SummerSlam, Rollins will regain his Universal Championship. Then there was a point in time where Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman were kind of like a duo and a partner, and both of them would actually go on to win the Raw Tag Team Championships, but their run wouldn't last long because they would lose their title to the Dirty Dogs of Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode. Then this is where we get the Seth Rollins versus The Fiend feud, because The Fiend would actually attack Seth Rollins after the match, setting up a feud in Seth Rollins and The Fiend, and they would actually have a match at Hell in a Cell. And man, that Hell in a Cell match between those two was just, it was bad. Like, Hell in a Cell, everything goes. There's no disqualifications, none of that. But the match ended in a DQ. How can a match end in a DQ when the match of Hell in a Cell is a no DQ match? You can't, like, how did Vince think that was a smart idea? Like, that made absolutely no sense, because it kind of ruined Seth Rollins' babyface run, and two, it kind of made The Fiend look weakened a little bit. The thing is, Vince kind of dug himself in the hole because he had The Fiend versus Seth Rollins for the title. You don't want to make Seth Rollins look weak, but at the same time, you also don't want to make The Fiend look weak, because The Fiend is, his whole thing is that, he's an unbeatable guy, you know what I'm saying, and things like that. So regardless of who won that match, one of them was going to look weak. I guess in Vince, he thought that, maybe if the match ended at DQ, they both look strong, but at Hell in a Cell, you do that? Like, a Hell in a Cell, there's no DQs. Everything goes, bruh. So that absolutely made no sense for that to happen. If you wanted that to happen, you shouldn't have had that match in Hell in a Cell. But after that, they will have another match at Crown Jewel Universal Championship in a Fall Count Anywhere match. In that match, Rollins would end up losing. The Fiend would have his first title run. Looking back on that title run, man, Seth, let's be real, did not have a good title run. Like, it could have been better, but I think what hurt his whole momentum is when Brock cashed in on him and when he had the no DQ match against The Fiend. Like, I think those moments really killed the run for Seth Rollins. And around late 2019, the Messiah of Seth Rollins was born. He would team up and align himself with Buddy Murphy in AOP, and they would actually go on to win the Raw Tag Team Championships. That would be Seth Rollins' 6th time winning the Raw Tag Team Championship. At WrestleMania 36, Rollins would face Kevin Owens in a no DQ match, which he ended up losing. Then Seth Rollins was put back in the main event scene because he would end up having he was with Drew McIntyre over the WWE Championship, which led to a banger match at Money in the Bank, which Seth Rollins lost. Then let's fast forward to Money in the Bank, which Seth Rollins compete in the ladder match, but he cannot win the briefcase. But later on in the match, Seth Rollins did what Seth Rollins would do. He would interrupt the Roman Reigns and Edge match. WWE would set up Edge versus Seth Rollins feud, and bro, that was one of the best feuds in all of 2021. Like, the matches that those two put on was just straight bangers. Like, I can't recall a bad Seth and Edge match at all. During the draft, Seth Rollins would actually go ahead and actually move over back to Raw, placed in that main event scene. But then the Seth versus Roman match was being set up at the Royal Rumble for the Universal title, and man, I thought at that moment Seth legitimately could have taken the title off of Roman. Like, I really had a thought, like, man, Seth might actually do it. I mean, he came out with the whole, the shield gear to, really fuck with Roman's head and things like that. And Seth really knows how to play his character, bro. He knows how to fuck up his opponent's head. Like, coming out with the shield gear is crazy. Rollins wouldn't end up winning the Universal title because that match wouldn't even last that long, because Roman would just demolish Seth Rollins and he would end up being disqualified, but Roman was just going in. The storytelling between that was really amazing because he was telling, Seth Rollins, man, you broke us up, you ruined the shield, you know what I'm saying? And man, Roman was just really furious with Seth. Like, you can just tell Roman wasn't playing any games with Seth Rollins. She would never actually follow up on that feud, and I think, since Triple H is in hell, they need to run that story back because they need to close that chapter between Seth versus Roman. But after not having an opponent for WrestleMania, Vince would give Seth Rollins a mystery opponent, which ended up being Cody Rhodes himself. Two would have, again, a great rivalry. Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes, to me, again, had one of the best feuds of the year so far, man. Like, the rivalries between those two, like, even when Seth Rollins came out, again, the storytelling about Seth Rollins is just incredible. When he came out with Rhodes, you know what I'm saying, attire, it's just crazy. Like, whenever Seth Rollins has a huge feud with someone, he always plays mind tricks with them, with coming out with an attire of like maybe a former opponent or something like that. He really knows how to tell a story. But after his feud with Cody Rhodes, actually start feuding with Matt Riddle, and we all know that feud between him and Matt Riddle is going great right now, especially that promo that Seth Rollins dropped on Matt Riddle on Monday Night Raw.
Riddle, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
You talk about my family, man. Let's talk about your family. Oh, wait, you ain't got one because your wife divorced you and took your kids and they don't want to see your bitch ass anymore, huh?
What did you just say?
Yeah, you heard me.
Where are you,
bitch?
Oh, bro, Seth Rollins is being a straight menace against Matt Riddle right now. Those two will actually have a great match at Clash of the Castle. Seth Rollins defeated Matt Riddle, which I was a bit surprised. I thought Riddle would actually get that win, but I'm glad Seth Rollins got that win, just because even though Seth has been having great feuds, he hasn't been winning a lot of them, and I feel as though Triple H made the right move by having Seth Rollins beat Riddle. Those two are actually going to run it back at Extreme Rules and a Fight Pit. I really want to see how that match goes. Obviously, Seth Rollins never felt as though he was the top star, and I think for a lot of us fans, we never felt that either, just because, you know, again, like he said, we're kind of in that Roman era. Like, each year Roman was the top guy. He was main event in damn near every pay-per-view. Even if the pay-per-view was good or bad, Roman was going to be the top guy. He was the headliner. He was, you know, the face of the company, the John Cena of the company. Seth Rollins, to me, was always just that kind of like, I never want to call Seth Rollins a mid-carder, but kind of was at some point in his career. Like, he never was in that main event scene. He was never, you know what I'm saying, going out main eventing, you know, WrestleManias or, you know, SummerSlams or something like that. He never was in that position compared to Roman. So I always felt like Seth Rollins, in terms of achievements, kind of underachieving the WWE. And I feel as though Seth Rollins has the ability to become, you know, saying that top star, the face of the company kind of guy. But I feel as though when it comes to Vince, I don't think Vince really seen him as that guy. I don't think he thought Seth Rollins had the look compared to what a Roman has. And everyone knows Seth Rollins has pretty much everything you can want in a star. He can cut a promo. He has the in-ring ability. Literally, there's nothing that Seth Rollins can't do. But I just think it's the look. Like, I think Seth Rollins has like a little bit of a look to be the face of the company. But if you look over the years of who's always been the top star in the company, it's always been guys like Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, The Rock, John Cena, Triple H, guys like that. They've always had like a particular body type that Vince wanted. Like, don't get me wrong, Shawn Michaels was a main event star, you know what I'm saying, even Randy, but those guys just didn't have that, you know, bodybuilding, you know, kind of body that Vince was looking for in those guys. That's why, you know, those guys was never really like, you know, the face of the company type thing compared to, you know, what a Cena or a Rock or someone like that. It has like a weird like fetish with guys that are like pumped up on steroids or something like that. I don't know why Vince just assumed if a guy's like, you know what I'm saying, built like a bodybuilder, he's just automatically a top star. Like, no, we have seen guys like a Shawn Michaels or even Randy Orton who didn't have that Cena or that Stone Cold look, but they obviously had everything you could want to be the face of that company. So to me, Seth is just always underachieved. I've always compared Seth Rollins' career to Aaron Rodgers. If y'all know football, man, Aaron Rodgers, again, has all the talent in the world. We all know how talented Aaron Rodgers is, but what always holds Aaron Rodgers' career back is that he doesn't have the accomplishments as, you know, Tom Brady. He only has one Super Bowl. Same thing with Seth. Seth really only had one great run, and that was in 2015. After that, he's kind of just been, again, floating around in the mid-card. He's done some great things, has some high point of his careers. He has some low point of his careers, and He was just never being pushed as that main event star.
And I had won the title at WrestleMania, cashed in, great moment. I still felt like I was second fiddle to Roman. I still felt like he was the guy. It's just you're the placeholder until he's totally ready, and we're totally ready to put the ball in his hands. But for now, you're a step ahead, so we're going to give you this, and then we'll move on to where we really want to be. But it's just going to take a few months. So no, I've never ever felt like in my time in WWE that the company was like, yep, he's our guy, put his face on everything.
The company, even when Roman wasn't, being cheered on and things like that as he is now, he was still being pushed as the company. He was still generating, a lot of money for the company. He has that look. I mean, bro, y'all already know how Vince feel about Samoan dudes, bro. If you're Samoan and you have a good body type, bro, Vince is going to push your ass to the moon regardless. I just think Roman just had a better opportunity to be the face of the company compared to Seth. But, in terms of like who's better, look, I love Seth. Do not get me wrong. I love Seth a lot. But I just have to go with Roman. Like, those accomplishments, man, those mean a lot. Like, it's not always just about talent. It always has to do, like, what did you achieve? Like, say Michael Jordan, like, he was great at basketball and all of that, right? But he didn't have the championships or the MVP to back it up. We wouldn't be putting MJ in that GOAT conversation. But because he has those championships to back it up, that's why we consider him the GOAT. Rollins doesn't have those accomplishments to back it up to be considered the top guy or even one of the greatest of all time. That's why I'm leaning towards Roman Reigns more than Seth Rollins. And especially with this tribal chief run that Roman is having right now, bro, I think at this point, just no denying that Roman is better than Seth Rollins. Like, the run that Roman is on right now is one of the greatest we have ever seen of this era. And Seth Rollins, he's done some great things, man. But he hasn't done a lot of great things compared to what Roman is doing right now. Why I'm saying Roman is better than Seth Rollins right now. But I wanted to get, other people's point of view and, hear what other people have to say between, who's better between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Which is why I decided to have a couple of great content creators hop on the video and, share their point of view on who they think is better between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. I didn't just want to give you guys my point of view. I wanted you guys to see, everyone else's point of view in the wrestling community between Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. For the first guy we have is my boy Donnie Blaze, man. Shout out to you, man. I'm gonna give his first insight between who is better, Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns.
Before I even start, I want to say shout out to Steven Sports Studios, easily one of the best sports YouTube channels on YouTube. So if you're not subbed, make sure you hit that sub button right now. Now let's get to the question, man. The question of the video. Who is better, Seth Rollins or Roman Reigns? That right there is a question that's been asked since they debuted, bro. Since Shield debuted in WWE, people been trying to know who is better out of those two. Today I got the answer for you. You don't gotta look any further. Out of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, the better superstar, the better wrestler, whatever you want to call it, the better person is Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is better in the ring, Seth is better on the mic, and Seth just had way better matches. Now, when it comes down to greatness, who's greater, that's a different story. Greatness gotta do with accolades and stuff like that. So if you talking greatness, I got Roman. But if we strictly talking who is better, I gotta go with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is better than Roman Reigns.
Man, shout out to Donnie, man. Appreciate you coming on to the video, man. He was making some valid points, man. Roman is greater just because of his accomplishments, but Seth is better overall just because he's great in the ring. He's great pretty much at everything you could want, but just Roman just has those accomplishments. Valid points by Donnie, man. So shout out to Donnie, man. And the next guy that we got on is my guy TL, man. Shout out to TL, man. Appreciate you coming on to the vid. And TL, man, I don't know, TL can go either way with this, man. He He is a bit of a Roman fan, but I feel like he might go with Seth Rollins. Don't know yet, so I'm gonna let my guy T.O. give his take and his opinion on the Seth versus Roman.
Who's better, Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins? Now, I'm not gonna lie, this argument I feel like will go down as like the Hulk Hogan versus the Macho Man Randy Savage of this generation. And that's not me trying to compare like Roman Reigns to Hulk Hogan or anything. Roman is way more talented, we know this. But I feel it is kind of like the same argument, like between like who's better, the guy who was that top guy and had those main event spots, or the guy who was literally better all around in every category, but just wasn't given that time to shine. And by time to shine, I mean like that top guy. Let's start with Roman Reigns. When it comes to Roman, he's had a tricky career. His time in the Shield was great, legendary even, and even after his time with the Shield, like from 2014 to 2015, he did amazing. The big dog Roman Reigns did have some great matches and some amazing feuds, all-time feuds even, like Roman Reigns and Braun Strowman. That feud was amazing. But is there anything you'd say he did better than Seth while he was the big dog? Like, if this argument happened in like 2019, I'm pretty sure a lot more people would be like, yeah, Roman just doesn't clear Seth right now. And the reason I'm talking about before the Tribal Chief so much is because this is the whole career of someone, you know, not just a good 2 to 3 year period. And to me, Roman just hasn't been as consistent as Seth Rollins over the past 10 years. When you talk about Seth Rollins, you can literally pick any year from his career and there would be like an all-time feud or all-time memory from that. You could literally pick any year from Seth's career and say, yeah, that man had an amazing year that year. Well, except for 2019 with that Universal title reign. And it goes back to that Macho Man Randy Savage versus Hulk Hogan comparison when you ask, what does Roman Reigns do better than Seth Rollins? He doesn't talk better than Seth Rollins. He doesn't have better gear than Seth Rollins. I know that's not a real category, but still. The feuds are arguable, you know, but once again, if you take out that Tribal Chief time period, then it's just not anymore. And he dang sure doesn't wrestle better than Seth Rollins. So what puts him over Seth Rollins? And once again, this goes back to what you as a fan prioritize. Me personally, I prioritize influence, you know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that is like years from now, 10 years from now, who's going to go back and say, yeah, I got my wrestling style from Roman Reigns? They're just not going to say that about Roman, but they're going to say that about Seth. Seth is going to have that influence on wrestling and on the wrestling business. And that's not to say that Roman isn't going to have an influence at all. He's going to have an influence, but it's just not, in my opinion, it's not going to be as big as Seth Rollins is. And once again, if you take away the main events and the championships from both, who's better? Literally, who's better? Is Seth Rollins. And when you compare their full careers, who's had more consistent years, Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins? It's Seth Rollins. And people will say, okay, but Seth was never that top guy. So just simply off that, Roman Reigns is ranked higher all time. And to that, I say, Sami Zayn has never been WWE champion, but Jinder Mahal has. So does that make Jinder Mahal all time ranked higher than Sami Zayn? Just a question, you know. But when it comes down to it, all time right now, I have Seth Rollins. My answer could change in the future depending on what these guys do, you know what I'm saying? It might not. I don't know. It's pretty early to make this, you know, comparison and argument right now. But right now, to me, I would just have to go Seth Rollins due to the consistency of his career and the years and his rivalries and just iconic feuds and matches. Seth Rollins clears.
Shout out my man T.O. man. Appreciate you coming on to the video. I think it's kind of crazy. He says Seth clears Roman. Not even Seth is probably better than Roman. He says Seth clears Roman. I think that's kind of crazy to say. T.O. also did make some valid points. So man, I can't get on him for saying Seth clears Roman. So shout out to T.O. man. I appreciate you coming on to the video, man. But the next guy we have is my guy Zay, man. Shout out to you, man. Just for a warning, man, this dude is a professional Roman hater. This dude has a whole society dedicated to hating Roman. So he's going to go off on this. So I'm going to let my guy Zay give his point of view.
Don't worry about what's in the cup. Anyway, I am the star before time. And today's topic seems to be who is greater, Roman Reigns or Seth Rollins. Now, I think y'all know where I stand. After all, I am the CEO and chairman of the Fuck Roman Reigns Society. However, allow me to place those biases to the side to give you an accurate opinion. Okay? Because you see, the tribal shitbrick is a decent contender in this conversation. After all, multiple time world champion, former IC champion, former US champion, former tag team champion, former Royal Rumble winner. He has main evented, I believe, 6 to 7 WrestleManias. That is a hard statistic line to argue. However, fuck those statistics. We are talking about talent. We are talking about skill. We are talking about who is better. And the man who is better is Seth freaking Rollins, the architect, the Messiah, the visionary. Seth has all of those qualifications I just listed for Roman, and then some. He is also multiple-time world champion, former IC champion, former United States champion, former tag team champion, former Mr. Money in the Bank, former NXT champion, former Royal Rumble winner. He has it all. Not to mention that he's one of the greatest workers on WWE's roster. No matter who you put in front of Seth Rollins, he will make himself and them look like a star. There is a reason Triple H trusted Seth Rollins to be the hand-picked guy in the authority. There is a reason Vince McMahon trusted Seth Rollins to be Cody Rhodes' first match back in WWE. It's because everyone knows Seth Rollins is that damn good. Roman Reigns does not have that. You stick Roman Reigns in the ring with half of the people Seth burned the house down with, you don't get that great of a match. Yeah, Roman's had his bangers with AJ, Brock, Drew, but Seth's had bangers with them too. Better matches with them than Roman had. Not to mention, Seth is a better world champion than Roman is. Yes, Roman has his 700 days plus reign, but fuck that. I don't give a damn. He is not as good as Seth Rollins. That is just a fact. There's no argument here. I'm only doing this video so I get a chance to tell all of you exactly how it should be. That and, Steve is my boy. But either way, this isn't a competition. This shouldn't even be a conversation. I don't even know how the hell we got here. But nonetheless, that is my opinion from the Star Before Time. Thank you for your time. Now.
And man, that is the end of the video, man. I appreciate everyone that stuck around for this video. I know it was long, but if you stuck around, man, I appreciate you, man. Shout out to you. This is a really fun video, man. Like, if there's any other, documentary rivalries that y'all guys want to see, make sure y'all comment below, because there's definitely a couple that I was planning on doing, like maybe The Rock versus Hulk Hogan rivalry, or maybe The Rock and Stone Cold, or even maybe Charlotte versus Sasha. So anything that you guys want to see, man, make sure y'all comment below. And I want to give a huge shout out to Tio, to Zay, and Donnie, man. I appreciate y'all coming on to the video. Make sure y'all go follow them, and make sure I leave all their links or all their socials in the description. But that's all I have for you guys today, man. If you enjoyed the video, man, smash that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn those post notifications on, man. And I'm out. Peace.